Everybody, welcome back into the WSAZ Now studio. My name is Joseph Payton. This is our Wednesday night WSAZ Sports Plus stream, which means WSAZ Sports Director Keith Morehouse is joining us. We have college basketball to talk about. We have college football to talk about, and then wherever else the conversation takes us, because I feel like you and I get up here and we just start going.
Some might say ramble.
Some might say.
I'm not sure that that's good, but
depends on your definition.
and,
so.
and how much time people have to listen.
Right.
Right.
You want to start with some college hoops because it is December.
It is time.
We're starting to get into those neutral site holiday classics, that sort of thing. Some schools even into their conference season or
close.
Preparing for it. Right. So, what have you made of the herd so far? They're coming off a couple of wins after losing 3 in a row, and it feels like maybe they found themselves again.
Yeah, really good start, obviously, to win those first 2 road games, Toledo and UMass. And then they had that little skid there. You just talked about. They lost that tough one to UNCW when they were up 7 with a minute 24 to go. Lost to Ohio, which is there's no shame in losing at Ohio. The Bobcats really shot it well, and they're playing better. And they lost previously to that to a very good Lipscomb team. But then, and I'll give Corny Jackson a lot of credit. He's brought in some really good mid-major teams, and they've gone on the road to play some good mid-major teams or high majors, whichever vernacular you like to use. But they played a tough schedule, and then they got Western Kentucky in here, and Western was 6-2 when they came in. Really good team, and I thought Coach Jackson did a nice job of slowing down their tempo. They love to run fast, and they got a bunch of guys who can get out and go. And in the second half, they controlled that, and they won that game, and then had a really tough game with Wright State. I mean, that was high-level basketball there at the end when the Raiders were making every shot, seemingly. The only one they missed was that desperation shot to tie it at the end. Wyatt Fricks hit a big 3 for Marshall, and Matt Van Comen's been playing really well. And I think what they've learned, and this just from covering and playing sports, is at this level you got to give it all for 40 minutes. You can't just half step and beat teams that are good. And I think they learned that lesson a couple of times this year. And you certainly want to take care of your business at home. And so they're in a good situation, playing some pretty good basketball as they and I believe they have the highest net ranking in the Sun Belt. So and they go to Troy to start conference play. So there's a lot on the line, but I think they're coming together as a team. And those moving parts are starting to work together a little bit.
You mentioned they have kind of a busy later half of December here before the new year. They're at Troy. They got West Virginia Tech, and they got Georgia State. That's all before New Year's Day.
Yeah.
That's how they will close out 2025. I tell you something I like about this Marshall team, though. It feels like they have a few guys that could give you 20 points just about on any given night, whether it's Fricks or Spear or any plethora of dudes out there. They're not a one-trick pony more often than not.
Yeah, that's a good observation. They've had guys that have stepped up and made some big shots when they've needed them. Then you'll have a guy, maybe I think Spear, the last game, didn't hit a 3, which is unusual for him, but they overcame that with some other good efforts, some double-double efforts that they're getting from Van Komen and they've got some guys that can heat up. Ochudy has played well at times for him at point guard, and Spear and Fricks. Fricks can go off at any time, and he had a really tough game previous to the Wright State game, and then late in that game he just turned and fired that 3, which was a huge shot. And I think that kind of bodes well for Coach Jackson, because he says, I don't care if you take a shot, just make it a good quick shot. And so he doesn't want to discourage these guys and keep their confidence going. And so when they're open, they fire away, and I think they're in pretty good stead as they head to Sun Belt play.
Yeah. What do we think about this team as it pertains to maybe contending for a Sun Belt title? It's early.
Yeah,
it's December, and teams change. They still are looking to find their identity. We've not even seen them play a Sun Belt team just yet, but I feel like this team does have some pieces to make some noise.
Yeah, I feel like the Sun Belt in basketball is going to be similar to the Sun Belt in football. It's going to be pretty balanced. Like, you're going to have to go and play hard on someone's home court to get a win. The team they're playing, Troy, they took USC 107-106. They lost. They've scored 100 points in several different games, so they can turn it up or they can play slow. And they've played some really good teams as well. So I feel like they've got the talent to be right up there among the leaders in the league. Now you got to go out and prove it. So, but I feel like the league will be pretty balanced. I don't think there's going to be one great team and everybody else. I think they'll all be kind of lumped together.
Yeah. I tell you, the Herd women's side of things, that you have to feel really good as they prepare for Sun Belt play as well. They're 9-3, and their 3 losses really nothing to be ashamed of. They probably want the Morehead State one back. If they could play that one again, they probably feel like that maybe wasn't our best night. But losing to Kentucky and Indiana and playing well against everybody else, they got to feel pretty good about where they're at here mid-December.
Yeah, they actually played the game against EKU at Transylvania, where Coach Fulks used to be and the coach of EKU used to be. So they played it on their home court, and so it was old home week for those two coaches. But Marshall's done a good job defensively this year, putting the pressure on teams. And they were up 8, and then they shut them down. The fourth quarter, Eastern Kentucky didn't score a point. Now, I'm not sure what the school records say, but I doubt that's happened before in a whole quarter of basketball since they went to the quarter system in college, that a team goes scoreless. But Coach Fulks has them playing well, and they've got they've got some people that can score. Lewis Utsy's been really good. Mayer obviously can shoot it, and they've Blessed King inside. They've got a lot of weapons, and they went out and got some people they thought could help them win this league, and I think they're in good position now at 9-3 for sure.
As we record this is actually Tuesday afternoon as we record this. So by the time people listen to this, they will know the result of that Appalachian State game that's happening on Wednesday morning. But other than that, they play JMU on the 20th, and they're done until New Year's Day. So they will have a little bit of a layoff around the holidays before they prepare to, I believe they go to Coastal Carolina on New Year's Day. So if you can get to that, win a couple of games, you're going to feel good at Christmas time and going into the new year.
Maybe you can stay on the beach the next day if you bring home a win. If you don't, you probably got to get in the bus and head back. But no, that's good. And I don't know. There's always that argument about, do you want to just keep playing, but do you want that much time off? Rust versus rest, and you want to stay sharp. But it's probably a good thing they get a little break heading into conference play. You get some people healed up if they got anybody banged up, and you get ready to go Sun Belt all the way from there. So I think she's done a nice job of filling in the holes on her roster and, getting this team prepared to play Sun Belt.
Probably be a little more of an enjoyable holiday season for them if you can beat App State and JMU, huh?
Yeah.
Have a much easier time enjoying it as opposed to thinking about a loss.
JMU's obviously picked to win the league, so they've been a power in that league for sure.
All right, you want to move on to maybe a little bit of Ohio State basketball, some WVU basketball. These teams just saw each other.
Wow.
And that was an unbelievable game. Stayed up late watching that.
I did.
Ohio State edges them out in overtime, double overtime, 89-88, and really a game that West Virginia let get away from them.
Yeah,
Ohio State didn't have really any business winning that,
but
they did.
They had a couple different chances to win that. And Honor Huff was tremendous. I like that matchup in Cleveland. Marshall was there several years ago too, as was Duquesne. They played Duquesne, and West Virginia played Ohio State. That's when you get to play at the Rocket Center downtown, that's cool. But it was a riveting game to watch. I mean, back and forth. And Ohio State's Thornton, that's the only guy that seemingly West Virginia didn't have an answer for. And he made the game-winning bucket with 3.6 seconds to go. Took it in there, got physical, went up strong, and made the basket. And but West Virginia battled. And like you say, probably should have come away with a win. They're probably kicking themselves after that one for sure.
They were up, 16 points with a little under 14 minutes to play, feeling good. Ohio State couldn't hit anything. But, man, the guard play on both sides of that thing, especially in overtime with Honor Huff and Bruce Thornton, that was awesome. I'm not saying either of these teams are going deep into March.
Right.
Hopefully so.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you have to make a run in March is some very good guard play. Guys that know how to get to their spots, get open looks. Honor Huff was throwing up whatever the other night.
He's been phenomenal all year just watching him coming over from Chattanooga, which just goes to show you, again, you can get these players anywhere. I mean, the old Southern Conference Chattanooga Mocs and – Marshall had a great rivalry over the years, but Huff can shoot it, man, and he has no conscience. He'll fire it up just in your face. He's got a real quick trigger, and he can shoot it. And he was fantastic. And I thought that was a really great game for college basketball to watch that one.
Both teams got a couple games coming up. Ohio State with a big one against North Carolina on Saturday. That is in Atlanta. I believe Kentucky will be down in Atlanta on Saturday as well. We'll get to them in just a little bit, and then West Virginia plays Mississippi Valley State on the 22nd. Then they'll have a big one once we turn the clock to 2026 or turn the calendar, whichever you want to say. January 2nd, they get Big 12 foe number 2 Iowa State.
Yeah,
They're number 2 right now.
Yeah, they're the highest ranked team in the league, and the league is got a lot of balance and a lot of people in the top 25. BYU and Houston and Iowa State and Kansas. I mean, it's always a bear of a league. It's going to be that way again this year for certain.
Did Mark Pope calm the tensions in Lexington a little bit, beating your neighboring rival there, Indiana?
You never like to say it was a must-win, but at Kentucky, that was kind of a must-win. They had trouble beating the elite teams on their schedule. In fact, they had fallen to each of them. If you want to categorize them as elite, but yeah, Carolina and Gonzaga and Michigan State, those are good teams. And Coach Pope is so. I'm not going to say he's too nice, but he got riled up there when they were in the middle of that streak, and you might have seen him sit Garrison down on the bench, and he didn't come back in. I mean, he was sending a message. We're not going to tolerate somebody loafing up the court. So I think maybe that's what he needs to do a little bit, show a little more fire. He's a great guy, incredibly skilled at knowledge of basketball, and they're going through some things, but he's got great faith in him. And he said the biggest word in the English language is yet, and they haven't proven themselves yet. Yeah. But he goes, it's going to happen. And they got some guys back who've been hurt. Diabate was hurt, and so he's back. So let's not go counting them out just yet. Cats fans are impatient, as they always are. But last year they went to the Sweet 16. So let's hold off on the fire Mark Pope talk.
Well, on Saturday, they'll have an opportunity to kind of right the ship, maybe get back in some better graces with Big Blue Nation, because they are 0-4 against ranked opponents. You mentioned them: Louisville, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Michigan State. I bet you at some point in time those were the 4 1 seeds in an NCAA tournament. You could pick out a year, and somebody is, right?
And back to that, I think the fans got disenchanted because of the way Gonzaga beat them and how badly they beat them, right? So they'll get back on track if you can go get one against St. John's. It's a long season. Let's not panic.
Yeah. That's probably what Jeff Bowles is telling his group, because it hasn't been the greatest of starts in Athens. They lost 6 of their first 7, but they are on a little 3-win streak here, right? In a 3-game winning streak as they head into the Ohio Wesleyan game. They were 4-6 overall. They are 4-6 overall, coming off wins against Maine, Marshall, and St. Bonaventure. So maybe the Robert Cats are turning the corner. I don't know.
Cats. St. Bonaventure, I think, was a 10-win team when they 10-2. I think when
I feel like they usually have good basketball.
No, they were. I think 10-2, and obviously you like beating your rival Marshall, and they did have a slow start, and there were people gnashing of teeth in Athens, as you know. But again, anymore with the way that the tournament is and the NCAA is run. You're going to have to, in all these leagues, you're going to have to win your league anyway. So it's how you're playing once you get into league play and how consistent you are and how you do in a conference tournament in March. That's what it comes down to.
Bobcat fans like to win, there's no doubt, as it pertains to basketball. But Jeff Bowles, I feel like, has built up a lot of goodwill in Athens, and it started back when he was a player, of course.
Yeah.
But people like Jeff Bowles. He loves Ohio University, loves being there. He's a great ambassador for that school. So people are willing to give him a long leash to figure it out, and I think they believe he will.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his first rodeo. He understands what's going on, and they weren't playing very well early. I watched several of their games, and then watched them play really well, shoot really well against Marshall, and then to go take down the next 2. St. Bonaventure, like I said, is a pretty good team. So he's probably got the ship righted. I wouldn't worry, and they're always going to be in the MAC in the the heat of the MAC competition. So I'm not worried about the Bobcats. Seems like he's got them turned in the right direction.
Well, the year that they end up winning the MAC tournament, they really weren't supposed to. I think they were like a 4 or 5 seed that year. So really just making sure you get yourself there. I don't know if they take every team in the league like they used to. I think you have to be in the top, so many of them. But get yourself to Cleveland. See what happens in that tournament.
That's a great. I had some good times covering basketball up at the MAC tournament. What was then Gund Arena?
Gund Arena, is it the same building?
Yeah,
though?
Same building.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right downtown. It's set up is perfect, and you got all these different schools coming in, and the tournaments run really well by the MAC. It's a big time atmosphere.
Gund Arena, back when the Cavs were black, blue, orange.
Yeah, when they changed
different color scheme than what they've got going on now.
Yeah, they had the cool net logo that they.
Yes, it's a cool logo.
I like that. Underrated.
It's pretty cool. See, I had NBA Shootout 2003 on PlayStation 2.
Was that it?
Used to play with the Cavs, and so Gund Arena, I can hear the announcer. I think it was Kevin Harlan or somebody in that game, or Ian Eagle saying, "Welcome to Gund Arena," and
Mark Price and whoever else was on this.
Yeah, rocking the 25 jersey, I believe.
He could shoot it. He could shoot it.
All right, you want to talk college football as we typically do?
Sure.
Let's talk the Heisman Trophy. Fernando Mendoza takes it home. I don't think that was much of a surprise. He was the favorite going into it, especially after knocking off the number 1 team in America. The way that he played, it wasn't crazy, exceptional football out there, but it was winning football, which really matters. Diego Pavia came in second. I think he had the second most first-place votes as well, followed by Jeremiah Love and Julian Sayin. You are a Heisman voter.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to reveal the Keith Morehouse Heisman ballot?
I will. Always a privilege to do that, and get the same thrill I do voting now as I did in 2002, I think, when I started. Yes, I did go with Fernando Mendoza, number 1. I went with Julian Sayin, number 2. Thought he was had a phenomenal year. I know he's a freshman, but his numbers were fantastic, right there with Mendoza's. And really, it comes down to that game, in the Big Ten championship. And you hate to say one game settles who's the best player, the most outstanding player in America. But Mendoza made that great throw there basically sewed up the game with that deep ball. And so I hit him first, and then Sayin was second, and Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love was my third pick. I thought he's got a lot of talent, a lot of breakaway speed. I think he'll do a nice job on Sundays for whomever is fortunate enough to get him. But I feel like a lot what we talked about over the whole last couple of months about college football. I feel like that we're still kind of losing the beauty of that event. The night before were the College Football Awards show.
Yep.
That used to be a huge thing, and it looked kind of, I don't want to say it was cheap looking, but it just didn't look like it had the same pizzazz that it used to have.
Did they have a lot of the guys there in person, or was it more of we're going to announce the awards and we're going to zoom in with some guys? Because I've seen it both ways.
Yeah, I've only seen a little bit of it, but it just didn't seem like it had the glitter and glam that it used to. And I understand it's in a tough time, and teams. But the portal and the playoffs and everything else have kind of affected. College football needs an intervention, maybe, and to try to get all this stuff lined out. But still, the Heisman Trophy. To be able to be there. When I was there, it was at the old Downtown Athletic Club, which was the coolest place ever. I mean, it's old and it's got all these old Heisman pictures on the walls, and you watch Archie Manning walk through and Tony Dorsett. Mm-hmm. You're sort of in awe watching these guys. And I was up there when Randy Moss and Chad Pennington were both finalists, and Byron almost was a finalist. So that was something that you don't take lightly, because to be able to cover that event it's one of the cooler things to cover still to this day.
Were you surprised that Sayin finished 4th? That was a surprise to me, because you and I talked on here, and it kind of felt like the winner of that Big Ten title game would win the Heisman. So naturally, my brain thinks, well, then the loser of that will fall to second, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would Fernando Mendoza have fallen to 4th had Ohio State kicked that field goal and won in overtime? I have a hard time believing that. So maybe some voters already liked Fernando Mendoza, and maybe they didn't respect Sayin as much as we thought.
Sometimes you're a victim of being the Ohio State quarterback. Let's be honest. You're always winning. Usually you're going to be undefeated, and you got some great weapons, right? Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and the rest of the crowd they've got. So I think in some ways, and Sayin, I believe, also was penalized a little bit because he's a freshman. And there are a lot of voters across the country, 1,000 plus or whatever, who think, he'll have his turn. Now, anymore, how many years are you going to have? I don't know. I don't know with these guys bolting for the NFL. But I think maybe that was part of it. And Bobby had a great year with a program that's not a blue blood and is really, kind of a Johnny-come-lately on the national scene, Vanderbilt. But same story with Mendoza in Indiana. I mean, the reason I thought Mendoza was the best is because he doesn't have all the luxuries that Ohio State has, and took that team to an undefeated season. So, if you don't finish first, I'm not sure it really matters, to be honest with you, for the next guys. But I thought Sayin was fabulous all year long.
Yeah. And to Mendoza's credit, and this is not to say that the other guys here haven't done the same thing, but it's certainly true with Fernando Mendoza that in the biggest moments when it was winning time, he rose to the occasion.
Yeah,
like I know in the Penn State game, he wasn't great for 3 quarters.
Yep.
And I knocked him a little bit for that with my own personal conversations with friends and family or whatever. But when they needed him to drive it 90 yards down the field and score a touchdown to stay undefeated, he did.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten title game, when it was 3rd and medium, and a first down wins the game, and they call a deep shot, you got to make that throw.
And
he did.
There aren't a lot of players in America that could do that with all that's on the line. And you're playing Ohio State. I mean, let's be honest. That's you're up there in rarefied air when you're doing that to Ohio State and proving yourself to be, the Heisman Trophy winner. And he had that Heisman moment in that Penn State game with that pass to the back of the end zone. And And beyond all that, I thought he handled himself fabulously in his speech. I mean, I think they had teleprompters, but then I see him look away, so maybe they didn't. If he memorized all that, good on him. That was and watching his mom and dad, and that's a moment that's what those Heisman ceremonies are for, to watch those emotions.
That's probably our TV selves watching it, because I was doing the same thing. I was like looking at the window and the glass behind him, and I was trying to see if there was a reflection of a screen, and at certain angles you could see it, but like you said,
then
he
was
looking off and deviating, so I think he probably went off script a little bit, but they probably had him upload a script, a speech beforehand.
And all of them, I would say, had to have one ready. And then regardless, he showed personality and charm and gratitude and all the things that you want out of college football players. Now, speaking of Pavia, did he? Not really. He wasn't the guy that seemed to have a whole lot of humility. Not that means you're not a great football player, but it sure has an impact in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, he had to walk it back a little bit there. He apologized and stuff, and he'll learn from it. He's young too.
He's a college kid. We got to remember that, right?
Right. Even though some people were giving him a hard time, I think he's been around for a while. He might be 24 or 25 years old.
A little bit older.
Maybe. Not that matters or means anything, but
right.
Still. It's hard to lose.
It is.
It's hard to lose.
You're thinking, all four of those guys should have thought they were the best players in America, and that's what makes you competitive.
You want to talk Marshall a little bit? Marshall football. Of course, we're in the off season, but that doesn't mean there's not news and things to talk about. They have a new defensive coordinator. That's Brad Lambert. It's a guy that Marshall diehards are certainly familiar with. He's been with the program, I think, 2 different times.
Right.
Back in the 90s, and then most recently as 2020. Tell us a little bit about Brad Lambert, because he's familiar with you.
Yeah, Brad came here in 1990 with Jim Donnan, one of the young guys on staff, and stayed with him through 95 and had some great success here. Then went with Coach Donnan to Georgia. And then, as you mentioned, he was on the ground floor of Charlotte opening up their program to Division I football. We went down and talked to him and did a piece with him, what it feels like to just start your own program. And Charlotte's done a nice job down there with their facilities. And he had a good situation, and they probably pulled the trigger a little quick on him. It's hard to come straight into FBS and make an impact. But then when he was here with Coach Holliday in 20, they led the nation in points allowed, 13 points a game. He's a good defensive coach. And then when Marshall had its issues, Coach Gibson said after the final loss, he said there's going to be some changes. And so he made the changes. I sat down with Coach Gibson, and we'll show it on Christmas Eve, 6 and 11, for kind of an extended talk with him about what he thought about the season, what he wanted to change, what he still wants to look ahead to. And he spoke highly of Coach Lambert and said the defense is up to him. He goes, I was too put out trying to call the defensive plays, keep your head around the entire game, help with the offense, special teams. And so he thought he was spread too thin. And you know what? Kudos to him for saying that, because a lot of coaches think they can do it all. I mean, that's their personality, right? But he realized it was a little overwhelming, went out and got a veteran guy who wants to be here, that he said. And also he's gotten some great news, and you'll hear this in that interview, on guys who are coming back. He's got a lot of big-time contributors who are coming back, not the least of whom is Carlos Del Rio Wilson, has gotten that waiver for another year, and he said he will come back. He's got Adrian Norton, the wide receiver, D.D. Tamarez, Toby Payne, the tight end, who's tremendous talent. All these guys could have gone somewhere else. Jalen Slappy, offensive lineman's coming back. JaVale Gilmore, the linebacker that made a lot of plays for him. Daryl Sweeting, Joe Sean Barbie, the running back. So they've got, in this day and time, and you and I have talked about this a lot, I think that's a good sign for Coach Gibson, because they're not, they don't have tons of money to offer these players. So you have to create an environment where they want to be. And I think he's done that. Otherwise, he could have had a mass exodus of kids who want to hit the transfer portal.
Yeah. You talk about creating an environment to want to come to school at Marshall and live in Huntington and enjoy this community that is unique. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like kind of the culture and fit aspect of this Brad Lambert hire is important as well? This is a guy that's familiar with it. He's won here.
Yep.
He's been here. He knows what this is all about. He probably knows how to recruit you to Marshall. Is that important, you think, as a DC?
I think it is. I think it's important as an assistant coach, and I think that's what Coach Gibson. One thing that I've talked to people that are in and out of that Shuey building, And they said that the culture and the attitude and the vibe in that building is better than it's been in a long time. And Coach Gibson, being a West Virginia guy, he knows what he wants out of his coaches. He even said, he goes, I want a coach who wants to be here, not some guy who's looking for his next job. Now, some obviously coaches are going to move, and that's okay, and so are players. But while you're here, we're playing for Coach Gibson, he's made the imprint that you got to want to be here and you got to be part of the team. And I think you're right. I think with Brad Lambert, a guy that knows his way around here, his wife's from Charleston. I think that helps. You know the program and you know what the expectations are.
And he's a former head coach, so surely you can trust him, and he will probably have some sympathy as pertains to Coach Gibson of like, maybe I don't bother him about this on this particular day. He's got a lot going on, like he can stay in his lane because he understands the lane that Gibson's into.
But even Coach Gibson said, hey, being a head coach is a lonely job. So I'm gonna lean on him sometimes too, because he's been there, and that makes a difference when you got a guy that is sat in your seat. Everybody else maybe are coordinators or position coaches. But if you got a head coach on your staff, a former head coach, I think that is helpful.
How about this next hire? They announced it at the same time. They hired Alex Jones as general manager. This is a position that you're starting to see schools all over the country. I bet almost all of them have a GM at this point. If you don't, they're probably talking about let's create this position. What is this? How important is it? It's probably different at each school. And talk to us a little bit about Alex Jones.
Yeah, he was here from 19 to 22, and then he went to Virginia Tech, so he's been around some really good programs. Basically, Joseph, I mean, it's similar as an NFL GM. I mean, you're out there looking for players all the time. They're scanning the portal every day for guys who are interested, guys they're interested in, maybe some people they've recruited before that didn't come here. I mean, there's a database of players now that you have to be locked in on 24/7, 365. And those guys have to be, creative. They've got to have a lot of energy, and you got to go out and, make sure that if Coach Gibson comes to you and said, hey, I need a running back because they had a couple of guys hit the portal, then you got to have a list in your mental and digital Rolodex to say, here are the guys we can go after. Very important position nowadays. You never heard GM in college, ever. Till a few years ago when the portal exploded.
So you feel like this is more of a player personnel kind of position?
Absolutely. I think it's player-driven, player involvement, player-based, and the impact is you got to have all these parts working together to form your roster because roster management is so important nowadays. Mm-hmm. And you got to know who you got, who you think may go, who do you need next year. Don't forget the high school aspect of it. They went out and got 15 high school players, which is still important.
Very much so.
And so, these guys are vital nowadays. And if you've got some experience at big programs like Alex does, I think he can help. Yeah,
like you said, he's just coming off being a GM at Arkansas State. So I'm sure they have similar issues there that Marshall does.
Yeah, I mean, Butch Jones has been around the block as a head coach. He knows all about that. And even these, even the Ryan Days and the big time coaches at the big time programs are having to go through the same thing. I mean, it's not the same issues because people aren't poaching your players maybe as much as they're poaching the mid majors or the group of 6 players because those guys are already developed. And you've seen big schools swoop in and get them, right? We've all seen it. Maybe that's not the same issue at Ohio State, but they got to have a list of who they're going to go after, and some of their guys may go and play somewhere else. They don't feel like they got the talent, but they're sitting on the bench. And so it's just different problems for different kinds of programs. But the portal and personnel and players, that's what drives it now.
People are on the move. I know the Sharon Moore situation is obviously more sad than anything else. It's more of a personal issue than it is football.
Yeah, and look how many football people it affects too. Michigan nature. The whole Michigan fan base. Everybody who played for the Wolverines. It's a really unfortunate situation, and not going to obviously delve into what makes a coach get involved with something like that. But now, Michigan's got it's going to be a big mess to dig themselves out of. It
is. And it makes it awkward for some of these other coaches. Like with any big time job, open it up. We saw it first with Penn State. Now everyone's throwing Kenny Dillingham's name in there, and he's getting asked about it. And Kalen DeBoer, who has a playoff game this week, they had to issue a statement, or he did, I think, that basically said, hey, I have no interest in talking to them. They've not reached out to me, which doesn't mean he wouldn't take the job if if discussed with him. But just the fact that you have to, like, settle those waters, and you've got Oklahoma on Friday. It's just a crazy world, man.
And it's that whole domino effect. You know, a lot of these jobs you expect to see come open, and once they get filled, maybe these coaches can take a deep breath and say, all right, nobody's going to ask me about this. And then this Michigan job comes up out of the blue, right? Mm-hmm. And so now more names come in. And it's man, it is a crazy landscape out there right now. There's no doubt about it.
Instability is a program killer.
I feel for those kids, man. There's enough going on. I saw Jalen Slappy the other day. He wouldn't mind me recounting this, and I saw him out. I was at a restaurant, and I said, "Congratulations! I see where you're coming back." I mean, he could have gone a lot of places. He said, "Yeah, it's tough." I said, "I can't imagine the pressure you guys are under when people are waving money at you, different programs." He goes, "You have no idea," and he goes, "Sometimes you got to convince your friends and family that this is what you want." And he's decided to stay, and you know, we forget these are kids, man. I mean, they're just playing with their boys, right? It's like, so it must be really hard in this day and time to be an athlete and try to juggle all that, and then without a head coach like Ohio has, be even harder.
Yeah. I mean, you know how hard it is for some people to figure out where they want to go to school just to study.
Oh yeah.
Let alone you're trying to make a career out of a sport, and you have that sort of runway to go wherever you'd like, and people telling you this and telling you that, and we can do this for you here, but we can't do that for you there.
And
I'd be stressed out too, man.
Just the rigors of trying to figure out what you want to do for your life. You know, that's the college age, right?
Right.
Trying to figure all that out, and then you got this hanging over you. It's a lot of pressure on those people that we don't. I think it's probably not part of the narrative that everybody thinks.
We don't give them a lot of grace publicly sometimes,
and they deserve it. I mean, they're sharp kids. Their work ethics are unbelievable. They go to school and try to handle all this, so it gives you kind of a newfound appreciation for what they do.
Certainly. Well, all right, dude, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I'll take us home here. Remember that we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Apple's Podcasts, we are on Spotify, and you could scan this QR code to find all of the episodes that we've done previously. If you haven't listened to the Jacob Spurlock episode or watched the Jacob Spurlock episode, I would advise you do that. He's going off this year. He's great. It's an awesome, awesome conversation with him. Real bright young man with a super bright future. Would certainly encourage you to go check that out. With that said, I think that'll do it for this episode of WSAZ Sports Plus. We will see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock right here in the WSAZ Now studio.